The biggest week in gaming in a very long time, or maybe just the biggest week in gaming ever, is now here. The Nintendo Switch 2 launch, as well as Summer Games Fest, which is taking the place of E3, will both be happening this week, and this is the first time that a major gaming console release has coincided with the gaming showcases that have taken place since 1995 when E3 first began. I decided why not make a quick little video going over some of the Square Enix related announcements that we could see, including Final Fantasy and maybe even Kingdom Hearts 4, because it seems like Square Enix is one of the publishers that has a large number of eyes on them ever since it was officially announced that they would be at Summer Games Fest. With all that said, and the Nintendo Switch 2 launching this week, I think it would be perfect for Square to announce the release date for Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate on the Nintendo Switch. It's possible they do save that announcement for an upcoming Nintendo Direct, as we do know that we'll be getting one of those soon, or at least we just expect it, but I highly doubt that, as Square took up time even to just announce this game back in the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that happened in April. So realistically, they'd probably just announce the release date for that game here, and then maybe they would just show it again during a sizzle reel portion of an upcoming Nintendo Direct. One of the other reasons I say that is because industry insider Jez Corden also pointed out that Remake Integrate will be coming to the Xbox Series consoles as well. So maybe they announce the release date for both the Switch 2 version and the Xbox Series version this week. On top of that, Jez has also pointed out that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy 16 are also rumored to be coming to the Xbox Series consoles at some point. So I think there probably is a good chance that we see the Remake Integrate version for the Switch 2 and the Xbox Series consoles launch on the same date. And if the Switch 2 version isn't going to be ready for a little bit, then I wouldn't even be surprised if we see a shadow drop of one or multiple Final Fantasy games onto the Xbox console, and maybe even into Xbox Game Pass. Square has dropped a number of Final Fantasy games and even their other titles into Game Pass in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised at that. It can get announced at Summer Games Fest, sure, but the most likely destination for that announcement, in my opinion, would probably be Microsoft's Xbox Game Showcase on June 8th. Now, talking about Remake, I will be talking about Remake Part 3 in a second, but I do want to touch on two other Final Fantasy games we can get news on this week. Now, one of those things is that I would love to see Final Fantasy 16 come to the Switch 2. Now, I know that's a hot take, as I know many Final Fantasy fans are not fans of 16, but I did really love that game, and I think getting that on the Switch 2 would definitely be a huge get for Nintendo. Now, I would love that announcement for one of the reasons being that the game is not verified on the Steam Deck, so the Switch 2 would probably be the premier way to play that portably, at least as of right now. And also because that game would really fall into the quote-unquote impossible port territory, in my opinion. It feels like that might be a long shot to get on the Switch 2, but I honestly think Witcher 3 was something that many people, including myself, was very surprised got brought to the Switch 1, and I picked up that game again on the Switch 1 when it did get released. And I will be picking up Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch 2 this week, as that is another game that, falls into that impossible port territory, and to have that launching with the Switch 2 is definitely a really cool thing to see. So I'd love for FF16 to come to the Switch 2, but I'm really not holding out hope that we would hear anything about that, at least at the Summer Games Showcase this week. Now for the other Final Fantasy game I wanted to touch on before Remake Part 3, let's talk about the one that's pretty much the big elephant in the room as of right now, and that would be Final Fantasy IX Remake. We've heard about this since the leaked NVIDIA GeForce Now list that came out in 2021, and over 4 years later since that list got out there, we're still waiting for any type of official tease or announcement relating to this game. And based on what I'm about to go over now, I do think that we will be getting this game. It's just a matter of when will Square announce this. This week, of course, feels like a perfect time, and with Square now listing Final Fantasy IX under their franchises tab on their site, an announcement feels imminent. This feels strange because Final Fantasy IX is not technically a franchise, and while yes, 16 is also under this tab, there's been different discussions I've seen going around about a possible sequel to Final Fantasy 16, and that's a whole other video in its own right, and I will be talking about that and making a video touching on that at some point, so definitely stay tuned for that. But that listing under franchises is one of the few reasons that I feel like there's still a high likelihood of us getting that Final Fantasy IX remake. Not only that, but there's a game in the code of the Final Fantasy IX merchandise site that's not up yet, so there's just another reason why I'm holding out hope for this 9 remake. Now, the remake can possibly be announced in July to coincide with the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy IX, but they'd get way more eyes on it here at one of these big June's gaming showcases, in my opinion. Now, yes, let's talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3. There's been a lot of people that I've seen speculating that we will see some kind of tease or announcement for Remake Part 3 here, and when I did see that, I initially just wrote that off and thought that was very silly, but as I've thought about it more and seen a lot more of the info surrounding this, I've kind of grown a little bit of hope that and maybe we get a kind of tease or some kind of announcement surrounding it this week. Rebirth was such a large game, yet somehow launched less than 4 years after Remake did, and that's even more incredible when you realize they had staff working on Intermission, Remake Integrate, and they also had to deal with the pandemic playing an effect on the development of Rebirth. Yoshinori Kitase spoke on this and said that Rebirth actually only took 3 years to develop, since of course they were working on the Intermission DLC like I mentioned before. Remake Part 3 also did start with the English voice acting, as we got confirmation of this back on April 24th with Cody Christian, who is the Cloud Strife voice actor, posting a photo on their Instagram story. In the photo that Cody Christian shared, it says, "So happy to be back," with a little gif or icon of their quote-unquote bestie, Cloud Strife, standing on the text. So that's super exciting to see, as the voice acting for Rebirth took place about 12 to 18 months before the release of the game. So development for Remake Part 3 certainly seems to be going smoothly, as a lot of the developers have pointed out. Also, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was teased in 2022, which was of course 2 years before Rebirth was actually released. So if things stay the same and there's a 3-year cycle, then that would mean a 2027 release would be the case for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, which funnily enough coincides with the 30th anniversary of the original Final Fantasy VII game. So super exciting stuff to see, and I would love to get some kind of announcement regarding FF7 Remake Part 3 this week. Now we'll close things out with something that I hope isn't too much of a long shot, and that is news on Kingdom Hearts 4. Square recently just released screenshots for Kingdom Hearts 4 that in my opinion looked great, and if we take what we just recently talked about with FF7 Remake Part 3, I doubt that Square would want to release a Kingdom Hearts game and a Final Fantasy game in the same year. So maybe we get Kingdom Hearts 4 in 2026 and Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 in 2027. Square releasing Kingdom Hearts 4 after FF7 Remake Part 3 would be a huge blow to the Kingdom Hearts diehard fans, so I'm not going to manifest that kind of energy and put that out into the world. So let's just hope that we see a possible 2026 release for Kingdom Hearts 4, and that we get some kind of announcement for that game this week, or any little tease or information that we can get. In a perfect world, I would say Kingdom Hearts 4 would be Square's big 2026 release, and their big 2027 release would be Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3. Keep expectations in check for sure, because we did just talk about a lot of high profile news and stuff in terms of not just Square Enix's upcoming releases, but big releases for the entire gaming industry in general. There's good reason to believe we'll see some of this stuff this week, as I don't think a lot of it was outlandish or too crazy, and I do believe a lot of this stuff certainly has traction to it. I want to know though in the comments what expectations you have for these summer gaming showcases, as well as what you'd want to see the most this upcoming week. If you enjoyed the video though, then I'd really appreciate if you could give it a like, as that helps out a lot. And if you're new to the channel, then definitely hit that subscribe button, as I'm definitely under the impression that after this week there's going to be a lot to go over and a lot to talk about in terms of upcoming game releases in the industry. Thank you so much for watching though, and I am out. Peace.